Hello and welcome to the Real World Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us here on episode 27. This episode's all about Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the new Marvel movie in theaters now. We're going to be reviewing that movie. We're also going to be ranking all 30 Marvel Studios films. We're going to give our individual rankings for every movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so be sure to stick around. Here with my brother Carson. How you doing?
Good to be here. Excited for that ranking and Wakanda Forever, man. That's very contemplative.
Yeah, a lot to say about that one. So join us in the discussion. Leave a comment below. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notifications of all our videos here at The Real World. Let's jump right in. All right, before we jump into our review for the new Black Panther film, we wanted to cover some movie news. A lot of movie news dropped this week. The first one I wanted to cover was some Star Wars news.
Okay.
The Acolyte is the upcoming Disney Plus Star Wars series, which takes place before the prequel trilogy. So we're going back, I think it's about 50 or 100 years before Episode 1,
Yes.
The Phantom Menace. Yeah. And production began on this new series. They also revealed the cast for this new series. So some good actors. Two that stood out to me were Daphne Keane, who played Laura in Logan, and Carrie-Anne Moss, who played Trinity in the Matrix trilogy. Cool. So very excited to see those two in there. A lot of other cast members were announced. The plot was also revealed. So now we actually know what this series is about, vaguely at least.
Okay, all right.
So the plot synopsis is a former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated.
So
interesting. Sounds like some Sith might be getting involved.
Okay, here. Cool.
Because
the Acolytes of the Sith
is
something we've heard about in the High Republic novels, and
right.
That's cool.
Yeah, you've read all those, so you're kind of more into this era than I am.
Yeah, I like the High Republic era a lot. I think it's really interesting and cool.
Yeah.
Kind of the pioneers of the Outer Rim.
Right.
And the Jedis being this, like,
Wild West
Rangers, Wild West Rangers, like, and knights. And it's a cool era. There's definitely a lot to be explored in that era.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. So that show should be coming either next year or the year after. Maybe 2024 is what we're looking at there. So exciting stuff. Next up is the Gears of War video game adaptation, which is coming to Netflix. This is going to be a live action film and also an animated series. So they're doing both of these things at one time. No details have been announced, no director or actors or anything. They literally just announced this. But a big fan of these games is an actor named Dave Bautista, who, of course, people know from Guardians of the Galaxy. He plays Drax. He's a huge fan, and he immediately took to his social media to kind of campaign for the lead role. So hopefully he gets cast. I think he'd be a great fit.
I think definitely, yeah, he fits that very well.
Yeah, I've never played the games, but I've heard a little bit about them. I know they're action-oriented, kind of sci-fi stuff. So yeah, it should be interesting to see what they end up doing with that. All right, next up, some big news out of Avatar Studios. No, not James Cameron's Avatar. This is Avatar: The Last Airbender, based on the animated series. They've created a whole studio dedicated to producing films and TV series from the original creators of the show.
Yep.
And they've officially announced the first animated movie will be coming October 10th, 2025. That is our release date for the first Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. Now, they've said that these movies obviously aren't going to cover the same time era that we saw in the either animated series for Airbender or Legend of Korra, but it's going to kind of take place between the two.
Interesting.
And so that should be interesting to see an older Aang, Sokka, Katara, Toph.
Yeah.
A whole movie dedicated to them.
That will be very cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Those are two of my favorite animated series. So yeah, that should be fun coming in a couple years. Next up, Daniel Kaluuya has been officially cast as Spider-Punk.
Cool.
And the new Spider-Man animated film, the sequel to Into the Spider-Verse, is called Across the Spider-Verse. And we've got a lot of Spider people lined up for this already. We've got Oscar Isaac, who was teased at the end of the first film, Spider-Man 2099.
Right.
We've got Spider-Gwen coming back. Of course, Miles Morales is coming back. They've also announced Spider-Woman will be a part of this film.
Cool.
And so it's going to be interesting. A lot more Spider people.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of the other Spider people like Spider-Ham might show up again or not. I don't know.
I kind of hope not, because there are so many other Spider characters we could do, like Silk and May Parker and all these other different kinds of Spider people we could do.
Yeah. The rumor is Tom Holland has been cast in it as well. He's gonna have a small role.
That's what I've heard.
MCU Spider-Man,
another live action Spider-Man reunion.
Right, exactly.
We'll see.
The villain for this film is the Spot, who is a very underknown villain.
That's actually a great pick for that animation style.
I agree. A lot you can do with that.
Yeah.
Visually.
That should be a really cool villain.
Right, definitely. So yeah, that one should be exciting. Comes out next year. More exciting comic book movie news. Jason Momoa took to his social media to announce something, but he couldn't announce what it was. He was just very excited. He said, "We've got to mark this day. This is some of the biggest news of my entire life." And he couldn't say what exactly it was. But the very next day, James Gunn, who's the new president of DC Studios, took to his social media and posted a picture of the DC Comics character Lobo. And everyone knows who follows Jason Momoa that he's collected every Lobo comic, and he's a huge fan of the character. So everyone thinks that this is probably what he was excited about.
He would look amazing as Lobo. I know he's already Aquaman, but
who cares?
I think it could work perfectly fine.
It could.
I don't know that it's ever happened other than the Quicksilver thing. Quicksilver is something I can think of where it's like either multiple characters play the same character or different actors play, but the same actor playing two characters in the same universe.
That's the question. Is it the same universe? Because
I don't know.
It could be a multiverse thing.
I'm thinking if you're doing Lobo and we're getting Superman back,
that's the thing.
We'll probably see him in something like that.
Yeah, because those two fight in the comics a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, so
I don't know. We'll see.
It could be really fun. I'm excited about it.
Momoa would be a great Lobo.
He would be a perfect fit.
Loboa.
All right, jumping back to Star Wars briefly, Sean Levy has been tapped to direct a Star Wars film. This is probably going to be the first Star Wars movie we're going to get since The Rise of Skywalker, even though a few others are in development as well. It looks like he is poised to jump right in to the Star Wars universe. This guy is a director I really like. He did movies, going back to Night at the Museum, which I really liked. He did a movie called Date Night, which I think is really fun. Real Steel is probably my favorite of his with Hugh Jackman. It's a great one. Recently, he did stuff like Adam Project for Netflix. He did Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. He's the guy behind Stranger Things. He's a producer on that, director on that as well. So quite prolific director. And it looks like he's jumping into the Star Wars galaxy. So I'm just so excited to see what he's going to do. I don't know what it is. We don't have any idea what the story is. From his filmography, it seems like it's going to be, I get vibes of, the Skeleton Crew show that they're doing.
Sure.
It feels like it's going to be a kind of Goonies-esque.
Okay.
Young kids in the galaxy, surviving, having fun on some adventure. That's my
at this point
idea, but I don't know.
At this point in Star Wars, you can do anything.
Right.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, any era.
This era currently is all about new people telling new stories in Star Wars, doing something different that we've never seen before.
Yep.
So as long as we're continuing that legacy, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's what Mandalorian did so well. Totally new character, new storyline, an era that wasn't explored. Skeleton Crew is going to do that more. So yeah, I'm excited because the ones that have dealt with legacy characters, I think, have had a harder time. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, even Andor for me, which I know a lot of people think that's a great one, and it is good. But
is he a legacy character?
I mean, he was in a movie already, so I mean, that's what I'm counting as a legacy character. Not a totally new original character.
Sure.
But most of the characters around him are new, which is why I think that show feels so fresh.
I think his characterization in Andor is unlike anything we've ever seen before.
That's true. Good point.
So
yeah, we'll have to wait and see what Sean Levy has up his sleeve. I'm excited to see a new Star Wars movie finally back in theaters. Next thing is Director by Night. This is the best behind the scenes thing Marvel or Disney or really anybody has ever produced. I mean, it is one of my favorite documentaries.
Other than fully produced documentaries
Right.
that are about a certain thing or person,
Right.
ones that are just like
This is like a bonus feature on a Blu-ray.
exactly,
it's like behind the scenes look at how we made this thing.
Other than Giant's Dream from Iron Giant.
Giant's Dream, Director and the Jedi is really good.
Director and the Jedi is really good.
Last Jedi.
This is the fact that those are even in conversation with a Disney Plus documentary about one of their one shots, basically. Is impressive.
Very impressive.
It's impressive. And Werewolf by Night is really great.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
But I enjoyed Director by Night even more.
Yeah, it's true. It gave me greater appreciation for it. It gave me greater connection to it. It's so personal, and just relatable and fun, and just...
My favorite thing is that they really focus on the individuals who are making the movie on set.
Correct.
The people who are pushing the buttons, who are flipping the switches, operating the fog machines,
right?
Playing the tubas, whatever.
Right.
All of the little people who just kind of like do their stuff on set is kind of what we're following and what we're focusing on.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that most things like this focus so much on the director and the actor, right? It's like the director and the actor, and that's all that they interview. And this is like, let's get the best boy and the grip and like find out what they're up to. It's like really random stuff. So really enjoyed it. Again, it goes into Michael Giacchino's life, his whole growing up, and his parents are in it, and his brother actually directed it, which is why I think it feels this way. And so if you haven't checked out Director by Night,
if you've ever seen one of the Marvel Assembled, this is the pure opposite of that,
right?
Whereas those are by the numbers, sit down conversation,
polished,
sit down,
overproduced,
same kind of things you see in every documentary. This is
the antithesis of that.
Yeah, it's almost like a home video.
Yeah, right.
It's I'm kind of surprised they released it on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
because it looks so like such iPhone footage,
right?
Of just,
but it doesn't look bad.
No. It looks great. It looks great, but some of it is literally Michael Giacchino just on his phone, like, oh, look, this looks so cool. Look
a Zoom meeting or something. It's just random stuff like that.
Super cool.
Yeah, if you haven't checked it out, even if you didn't even watch Werewolf by Night, you'll still get a lot out of this, I think. If you did watch it, you'll get even more out of it. But
if you like Michael Giacchino as a composer, this tells you so much about him and his family and his background.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Yep, definitely. So definitely check out Director by Night, now streaming on Disney Plus. Last thing we had to mention was some sad news we got this week, which was that Kevin Conroy, the iconic voice of Batman, has passed away at the age of 66 after a short battle with cancer. This is a guy that we listened to growing up all the time, still do.
The de facto voice of Batman.
Yeah, I mean, he's the most iconic Batman voice. He was voicing Batman since 1992 with the first episode of Batman the Animated Series, all the way through all the Arkham games. He did a lot of the animated films as well.
He has an understanding of the character and a passion and love for what Batman represents that is not common among anyone behind the scenes of any Batman project.
Right.
He definitely stands up to and upholds those standards Batman represents.
Yes.
And he was just such a treasure. So glad we got so much out of him before he was gone.
Yeah.
I highly recommend watching his episode of Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum.
Oh yeah.
Which was really goes a lot into him as a person and his history and really, really cool stuff.
Definitely.
He's such a treasure.
Yeah.
Such a treasure.
Yeah, absolutely. He did a lot of great work. If you're a subscriber to HBO Max, you have every episode of Batman the Animated Series to watch, as well as many of the animated films where he provided his voice for Batman as well. So we just wanted to mention him. He's our favorite Batman. He'll never be able to be replaced. And so go and watch some Batman stuff.
What are his best things, do you think?
Definitely Mask of the Phantasm.
Is
the kind of go-to where he gets to really stretch himself as an actor playing the role. We get to see Batman's origin in that.
His performance in Arkham Knight is very good.
Okay, I haven't played that yet.
I'd say that maybe even more than Arkham City, which is more of a Mark Hamill standout performance.
Right, as Joker.
But Arkham Knight, the role's kind of reversed,
and
he gets to really explore Bruce's psyche in that.
Interesting.
That's an excellent performance.
It's great. There's a lot of episodes of the animated series. I mean,
definitely.
Beware the Gray Ghost,
Mhm.
I Am the Night, Perchance to Dream.
Mhm.
I think is a great one for him too. Yeah, there's a lot, and even going into Justice League Unlimited,
Yeah.
a lot of great ones there. Epilogue is a
Mhm.
huge one. Going into Batman Beyond, there's a lot of great
Definitely,
ones
yeah.
where he gets to play a different kind of Bruce Wayne.
Mhm.
So yeah, he got to play so many different kind of shades of that character that you really can't go wrong with any of them. But those are some of my favorites. All right, so we're going to jump into our review of Black Panther Wakanda Forever now that we're done with movie news. And so we're going to start with some non-spoiler discussion, just general talk about the movie, what we thought of it, and then later on we'll get deep into the spoilers of what happens in the movie. This movie, directed by Ryan Coogler, returning from the original Black Panther film. He also directed Creed. Really talented director. So getting into this, I mean, for me, the first thing I think of is just this is a very cathartic experience because of all the behind the scenes stuff. For those who don't know, Chadwick Boseman passed away after the making of Avengers Endgame. That was his last appearance as the character. Having to deal with that, the filmmakers had a big challenge in front of them. They had to rewrite the entire script, obviously, and the cast had to come back without him. And so very, very difficult situation to deal with just in the behind the scenes making of this movie. It's a big part of it. And this movie really deals with that head on. But it's very emotionally driven film. The performances are key here, and they're all great across the board. Everyone here does a great job. Letitia Wright is our main kind of protagonist here. She does a great job. Angela Bassett is, I would say, a co-lead with her as Queen Ramonda, and she is wonderful. She has several scenes that are very powerful and impactful. So great cast, very authentic, real performances. Coogler, made this movie with a lot of heart. He had a lot of meaning behind it.
Yeah, that was something that stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Was that it really didn't feel like an MCU movie.
Yeah, it wasn't a sequel just because we have to make a sequel.
Sure.
It felt like we're making the sequel for a reason. And that's not just to make money.
Yeah, it feels more like a Coogler movie
right
than a Feige movie.
True.
It's very well shot. The cinematography is incredible.
Yep.
It looks more like a movie than, I'm trying to think of a good example.
Captain Marvel or...
Yeah, like Captain Marvel or...
Black Widow.
Black Widow is a good example.
Yeah.
This is the polar opposite of something like that, where it's more... It's actually most character focused.
Right.
More than any other focus of the movie at all.
Mm-hmm.
The primary focus is Shuri, the main villain, and just this duality between them and their internal development.
Right.
It's almost a character study
of
a movie. And that's unexpected for something like this.
Definitely.
But it's very well done.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot to think about in it. It's kind of hard to even put it into words in some ways. But it's definitely an impactful film, has a lot of purpose behind it. But on the other hand, it has a lot of great action sequences that you'd expect from Marvel. Huge battle sequences. I mean, on a scale that we, I guess have kind of seen with Infinity War and Endgame. But
yeah, I wouldn't say it gets to that point of it being like massive.
Right.
But it's more emotionally impactful than something like that.
And it does have big stakes too. I mean, they're dealing with pretty big stakes here. It's not quite universe-ending stakes, but it's still high stakes. And as far as the plot goes, so great visual effects, great stunt work. Like you said, cinematography is spectacular. Just really great looking movie. Does have like we're kind of talking about a little bit more of a somber and dramatic tone than many Marvel films. It definitely has moments of levity throughout it. There's a few laughs in there for sure. But overall, the tone is
more dramatic.
It's a little darker. And the visuals represent that as well. So characters that stand out, Shuri, of course, she's the lead character here. She does a great job. But M'Baku, again, Winston Duke does a great job playing this role, and he definitely had a bigger role here, which I thought was exciting. So he gets a lot of time to shine there. Namor is the standout though for me. I mean, of course, this is the character we've been waiting for a long time.
Sure.
Marvel fans really like this guy. He's such a unique character because he is, kind of that gray area. He's kind of an antagonist. He's kind of an anti-hero sometimes. So, here he is more of an antagonist, but he's one of these villains, I think, like Killmonger or Vulture, I think of, who have, kind of good reason to do what they're doing. They have a point of view that makes sense to them. And so he definitely has that. And when you get his backstory and everything, it's just really well done. The actor did a great job playing him. He had a great just look about him. The visual, the character design was great. So yeah, he definitely stands out among the MCU villains as one of the best, I think. Some negatives for me maybe would be the runtime. It feels a little long to me. There were a couple scenes that dragged on a little bit too long. Some subplots with certain characters that we'll get into specifics later that I just didn't think were as necessary to spend as much time with them as we did. That would kind of be my really only criticism here. It's really ultimately a satisfying conclusion. The ending is really good, really well done. Final image that we end on, and there's a mid-credit scene too, which we'll get into the specifics later, that is also very, very interesting. So it sets up some interesting things to come. It resolves all these things that we were going in questioning. How are they going to deal with this? Very well handled it, very well, with a lot of passion. So overall, I got to give this one 4 stars. I mean, it's a solid movie in the MCU and just as a movie on its own. What's your star rating?
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars as well.
Yeah.
Just it's more intimate, more personal than I'm used to for a movie of this nature.
All right, so this is your spoiler warning. Those are our spoiler-free thoughts. We're going to get into the spoilers, the specifics of the plot now. Who lives, who dies, the reveals, all the characters, everything is going to be spoiled right now. So if you have not seen Black Panther Wakanda Forever, skip ahead. I've got the time codes down below. You can jump straight to our MCU rankings. But now, for those of you who have seen the film, we're going to get into all of the details. So,
can't believe Namor is a mutant.
Yeah, so that was a big reveal.
Can't believe Dr. Doom showed up.
Dr. Doom did not show up.
Can't believe Kang the Conqueror was the main villain, killed Namor. No, I'm kidding.
That was funny.
But he's a mutant. That's cool.
He's a mutant. He is revealed to be a mutant. He actually says the word, and
just like Miss Marvel.
Just like Miss Marvel. So we got 2 mutants confirmed.
2 confirmed mutants.
Which is pretty cool. Oh, wasn't there a mutant in She-Hulk as well? Wasn't someone she represented said he was a mutant?
Eternal Man?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't remember.
Anyways, so yeah, we have another mutant in the MCU making our way towards the X-Men. That's exciting news. So yeah, I thought that was a good way of explaining why he looks different, why he's not blue, why he has the wings on his feet, the pointy ears, all that stuff.
Wakanda Forever is such a deviation from the MCU. Almost feels like it doesn't fit with the tone that the MCU has set. And I don't mean that as a negative. I mean that mostly as a positive.
Okay.
This is a movie that I almost wish I hadn't seen in a theater. I kind of wish I had seen it alone.
Yeah.
Quietly.
Because it's a very inward film.
It's very, it's much more personal and intimate and character focused.
Right.
And it requires a lot more. I mean, I guess that's the great paradox of movie theaters.
Right.
You're supposed to be able to pay attention fully to it.
Right.
But it's also an environment where you're with a bunch of people.
Right.
So it's paradoxical, but
yeah.
How do you think this would have performed if it went straight to streaming? Because I think that might have been a better move for a movie like this.
I don't know. I mean, some of the visuals here are just so spectacular. You really want to see them on the big screen.
They are. You know? But I get what you have a good home theater setup.
And I get what you're meaning by the tone and the story and all how intimate and personal it feels and how serious it is and that kind of thing. I totally get that, but I think it worked well. I mean, I think our theater responded really well to this movie.
They did.
I mean, our theater was very quiet.
We had a very respectful theater.
People were into it. Yeah, I think it worked. I think it can depend on the audience.
It's not a cheer movie.
No,
there
are a few cheer moments.
I don't think
kind of
not like you're expecting.
Right.
Not like Spider-Man.
Right.
Not like
exactly. Yes.
not like Captain Marvel.
Right.
Not like any. Unlike all of that.
Right.
It's almost the reverse of that. Where instead of cheer moments, there are
like sigh of
somber
relief
moments.
But there's also like sigh of relief moments, like, yes, like I'm glad this happened. But it's not. You're right. It's not like a cheer.
It's more internal.
Yeah.
And it's more respectful.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, it is different. I think there are a few movies out there that in the MCU that do that and that kind of change up the formula a little bit, but there's not very many. So this one's definitely an outlier.
It's just
in a good way.
For the massive commercial success as Black Panther was.
Right.
It's not really good, like a commercially successful follow-up to that.
I see what you mean.
Which I don't expect this to make much money.
Okay.
I think it'll obviously perform well.
I think it could,
because everyone's gonna go see it, but I don't think they'll go see it again and again like they've been doing.
I hear you.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just not that kind of movie that you watch and hang out while you watch.
Right.
It's too heavy. It's too focused on character.
Right.
To be something that's a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
It's just not the kind of movie it is.
Yeah. Makes sense. So let's get into some of the details. So the opening sequence, they kind of deal with the death of Chadwick Boseman right up front. We don't ever see him in this film other than in footage from previous movies, which I'm glad they didn't try to CGI him or something like that.
There was a moment where they almost did.
I thought they were going to.
But it turned out to be Killmonger.
Right.
And that was great. Wise choice.
So yeah, Shuri's in her lab trying to heal him, and he passes away. So that's the opening scene.
So good.
And it's so well done. And then we go right into his funeral scene, which is beautiful looking sequence. Great music and
it's all following Shuri's POV.
Yep.
This is her movie.
Yep, totally.
It's all, we're setting up her arc in the beginning.
Yep.
Her reliance on science, her struggle with faith, her attempt to overcome this grief.
Yeah, her eventually leads to her seeking revenge and becoming consumed with vengeance, much like T'Challa was for his father in Civil War.
Right.
So all these themes kind of carry through in really, really impactful ways.
But I care about Shuri in this movie more than I did about T'Challa.
Okay.
More than I did for Peter Parker and No Way Home.
Yeah, well, I think a big part of that is we've had time with Shuri. In the first Black Panther film, we get introduced to her. She's a very likable character. She's very relatable, kind of fun. We see
she's a little sister.
Yeah, she's the fun little sister. She's
funky
kind of
little sister.
Yeah, she's got an attitude, and we see her again in Infinity War with the Avengers. Get her to mix it up with them, and briefly in Endgame as well. So I think that time that we've spent with her. Coming to this place with her where she's in such a different place emotionally really helps us connect with her very quickly. And so it's really well done opening way to open the movie. Sets the tone right up front. It's a somber, dramatic kind of feeling movie. Later in the film, I mentioned she's seeking revenge because her mother passes away. So the way they dealt with the death of Queen Ramonda,
which is I think a really daring move.
Very daring.
Because it solidifies Namor as the villain. As a
force to be reckoned with.
Unredeemable villain.
Right. Well, yeah, right. He's gone too far.
He has such a great history. Such a great origin.
Yeah, his origin story is
just how he gets the name Namor and what Namor means.
I love that.
The boy without love, or loveless boy.
Yeah,
because he has no love for the surface world.
Love it.
Great.
So good.
And all that stuff with his mom. With the herb and how that ties in. They were really smart in the way that they did plot wise. The the heart-shaped herb and it being in the bracelet.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew exactly what the audience would be thinking exactly when.
Yep.
Because there's a funeral sequence with her mom, and she has a great conversation with M'Baku, who's excellent in this movie.
Yeah.
Then we go back to the lab. We go right back to the lab, and she holds the bracelet.
Right.
And during the M'Baku scene, I was kind of listening, kind of thinking, what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, the bracelet. Well, we have the bracelet. That's it's this plant from vibranium, just like the heart-shaped herb.
Right.
And while I'm internalizing all of this in the back of my mind, Coogler's like showing us it. So the next scene, she's making the herb, and and it's just moving along at a great pace, especially after that point.
So they deal with her death in a really impactful way, and it informs Shuri and her kind of quest to now become the new Black Panther, which I thought was handled very well. Her suit looks awesome, and then, as you mentioned before, Killmonger returns in this great scene after she partakes of the heart-shaped herb, and they have a great scene where they talk about how she's becoming like him, and that's kind of her turning point.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Really she takes the heart-shaped herb. She goes to the ancestral plane. It's the throne room.
Yeah.
You're expecting to see T'Challa, or maybe her mom, and it's Killmonger.
Yeah.
And at first I'm like, this is none of the options. Like, it's her dad, her mom, or her brother.
Right.
And it's none of them.
Right.
Why is it Killmonger?
Yeah.
And then her character thematically resonates most with Killmonger right now.
Yep.
So it's like,
because she didn't believe.
It's just like how Force Ghosts work in Star Wars.
Right.
Like, Obi-Wan doesn't see Qui-Gon until it's the right time for him to see Qui-Gon.
Yep.
And now she, in the same way, sees Killmonger and doesn't see her mom until the right time for her to see her mom.
Yeah.
When she gives the great line she gave to T'Challa,
right?
Show him who you are.
Yes.
And that's great.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. Really well done.
It's so well told as a story.
Exactly.
It's super calculative and precise in the way that it's edited and the way that it's paced.
Yep.
I wouldn't take or give a second of this movie.
And then, of course, the big reveal at the end, mid-credits, is that T'Challa and Nakia have a son, Prince T'Challa. And so that was quite the reveal. I was not expecting at all. And
changes the whole movie.
Yeah, it really does.
Really,
because the film ends on a very somber note where she's burning the ceremonial garb.
It's a terrific triumph for her character. Because she wins in the end.
Right.
It's this victory, but it's all internal victory. It's all contemplative.
Right.
And then we get
she's able to move on.
Right.
Grief.
Right.
She's able to grieve finally.
And we get this external victory.
Right.
Of he not only does his legacy live on, his legacy literally lives on.
Right.
That's great.
Exactly. Yeah, it was really well done. I also want to talk about Namor. This final scene we get with Namor, and where he basically tells his cousin Namora that
we got to go find Dr. Doom.
No. she tells her this is good for us. This is when Wakanda is attacked, they're going to turn to us, and we'll be able to take over. So he still has this grand design for his kingdom.
It's just like Young Justice.
Yeah,
smart writing where. Always in the end, the bad guys, even if they lose, everything goes according to plan.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And also the smartest move Namor could have made.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The battle scene with her and Namor in the desert is one of the highlights of the movie.
Super cool.
Well, so
I love that they treat, and also Riri Williams is in this movie.
Yeah, we got to talk about her.
She's super cool.
Yeah.
But they treat the super geniuses like super geniuses.
Right.
And they figure out that the Submariner's weakness would be away from water.
Yep.
So they take him to the desert.
That's right.
And that's great.
Yeah.
Love it. Simple logic, but executed very intelligently.
Yes, definitely. So Ironheart, Riri Williams is introduced in this movie. We already know she's getting her own Disney Plus series, which is coming next year.
Which I wish I had kind of seen it before watching this.
Well, supposedly it's actually going to follow this and not be a prequel, but there'll probably be some flashbacks, I'm guessing.
Okay.
But I thought we got a pretty good setup. We kind of get her origin kind of in this.
Well,
like,
yeah,
we kind of understand who she is, where she's from,
we don't,
what she's about.
yeah, we don't need to see her origins or anything.
Yeah.
Because she's a terrific character.
Yeah. Yeah, she's fun.
It's just established that she's worked really, really hard to get to where she is.
Right.
It's not like Riri Williams from the comics.
Sure.
Who's different than this version.
Right.
This does to Riri Williams what Spider-Verse did for Miles, in that it makes them a more relatable and likable and understandable, sympathetic character.
Sure. Yeah, she was fun. She had some cool moments for sure.
Very much an audience surrogate.
Yeah, definitely. She's the kind of wide-eyed outsider. Wasn't crazy about the costume design. I didn't think it was. I thought it was fine. They tried to make it different from Iron Man, which I get, but it was just kind of bulky, and I guess it's like a Mark I suit basically, so it's like her prototype. She'll hone it in later, I'm sure, but no, there are definitely some fun moments with her.
I take issue with all of Marvel's costume design. I agree with Okoye that they're all ugly.
Namor looked great though.
Namor looks great. Well, he's barely wearing a costume.
So I'm just hoping that Young Avengers happens. I'm still waiting for this. We got Kate Bishop. We got Ironheart now. It's all there. We got even a young Black Panther now. So
Young Avengers
needs to happen soon.
She should just join the regular Avengers.
Well, Shuri, yes.
Yeah.
Prince T'Challa, no. I was talking about Prince T'Challa.
Oh,
he could be like Azari in next Avengers.
Because Nakia's secretly Storm.
Right, exactly.
That would be great. Why is everyone saying Doctor Doom?
I don't know. I think because it's connected to Fantastic Four, just like Namor is. So people expected him to show up here. But no Doctor Doom. He needs to show up, though, eventually. And it would be cool to see him mix it up with Namor and the Fantastic Four. That would be fun.
You should probably wait for Doctor Doom.
You should wait.
Because you're doing Kang.
Right. Yeah, after you're done with Kang.
Kang is big.
Yeah.
You're doing X-Men, so we're getting Magneto, supposedly, or Apocalypse, even. Or maybe Mr. Sinister.
There you go. That'd
be cool.
I haven't seen him yet. The last thing I'll mention is Thunderbolts. This, isn't going to tie in. It's not going to tie in a big way, but we do see Valentina back. Julia Louis-Dreyfus character who was introduced in Black Widow, who showed up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what they end up doing there.
Now,
if Everett Ross is going to come back.
Yeah.
Because we find out they were married at one point. So
is Thunderbolts going to be a movie?
It's a movie.
Okay, it's a movie. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking the reason her being in this is important is because I think this is setting up the plot to Thunderbolts.
Yeah, very well could, because it's this whole thing about vibranium, and you find out she's head of the CIA now, which I don't know if she was before or not, but yeah, she's very well connected, knows about everything that's going on, knows that Ross has these connections. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, how I think the seeds are being sown already. For Thunderbolts, which will be fun. All right, so those are our spoiler thoughts. Now we're going to jump right in to our ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, so we're going to start with my number 30, Captain Marvel.
I disagree. This is not my number 30.
Captain Marvel is my least favorite. It's not one that I've ever desired to watch again. I think I've seen it twice. It's forgettable. Many parts of it I think are boring. I think it's very poorly paced. The lead character is unlikable.
Wow.
I don't have a good time watching this. I think, Nick Fury is okay. The cat scratch to the eye is just a terrible attempt at a joke.
It's a flirkin.
It's got an way overused 90s soundtrack that just comes out of nowhere.
But you love Guardians.
But Guardians, that plays into the story. See,
that's true.
That's story at all.
That's true.
It's just 90s nostalgia. Here we come.
Hey.
It's just not well done.
Glad to see Coulson.
I gotta say, it has some fun action sequences. It has some good mythology building. I like the whole Kree Empire thing. Hopefully that eventually comes back in Secret Wars. Been waiting years for that.
Kree Skull War.
You know, her whole backstory is kind of interesting. You know, I don't mind it. It's not a movie I dislike completely. There's not really any Marvel movie I dislike. So there's a lot to get out of this. You know, it's not
Miss Marvel's better.
Miss Marvel's way better. Can't wait for the Marvels. Very excited about that. But this is one that, you know, I felt like it was just kind of, they felt like they had to introduce this character, and they tried to do it in an interesting way and do it in the 90s and make it a different kind of thing, but it just didn't work. It's very much follows the Marvel formula.
There's a scene in this movie where Brie Larson beats up an old lady, and that alone is worth the price of admission.
Very true. Very true. All right, that's my number 30. What do you got?
My number 30 is Black Widow.
Okay, well, that's my number 29. Okay. So we can both talk about that right now.
Okay. Captain Marvel's my 29 too.
Okay, gotcha.
So we just have them slightly reversed.
So why do you think Black Widow deserves the bottom spot and not
Black Widow's trash? It personifies everything I hate about the MCU.
Okay.
In that it is colorless, dull, is focused too much on plot.
Okay.
And just there's so little weight in everything that happens in this movie.
Right.
Both because of when it takes place,
and literally with the visual effects. That end scene is like they're just floating through space.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be falling.
Whereas a movie like Winter Soldier mastered superhero action, where it's fast and intense and heavy and violent.
Yeah. And
this is like
over choreographed and just...
I don't like almost everything about this.
Yeah, it's very formulaic again. And I just feel like it's kind of too little too late for her character. She should have had this movie in phase 1 or phase 2. You do it after the character has died.
This is the least interesting.
It has no impact on the greater universe. It
does.
I mean,
because Yelena,
very slight. Yes, Yelena is introduced, and Yelena's great.
Red Guardian.
We all like Florence Pugh, of course. I'm glad she's in the MCU. That's awesome.
Red
Guardian's fun, you know. And it's just
villain is terrible.
Villain is very forgettable, boring. You know, lackluster.
They're bringing back Taskmaster.
Yeah,
and Thunderbolt.
To be in Thunderbolt, so that could be an interesting way,
maybe,
you know, to make this a better movie.
Be the same person. They're recast. They must. There's no other option. She exploded. Didn't she?
No, she was on the ground. She said, "Hey, they're gonna go help you. Go that way."
Oh, she survived the helicarrier explosion.
Most people did. Just the bad guy died. They rescued all the Black Widows.
The only casualties of our sky base exploding was
the faceless thugs and the main
faceless thugs and corporate villain.
Right.
All right. Done.
Right.
Next.
Exactly. So, anyways, the great new characters are a big positive of this. I think it is slightly more character centric than you're giving it credit for. I think Captain Marvel is much more plot focused because we do get some backstory on Black Widow and Hawkeye, her family, where she comes from, what she's about.
Okay.
We get that kind of stuff in it.
It boils down to Captain Marvel's more fun.
Okay.
I enjoy it more.
I can give you that.
Marie Rambeau and the all that stuff, super fun.
Give me Red Guardian all day over those characters.
Okay.
That's my
the American Pie scene where they're singing American Pie in the bedroom.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The dinner scene is perfect.
Dinner table scene is the best scene.
And the opening 15 minutes are perfect.
Yeah.
That's all you need to see. It should have been a one shot.
Exactly.
Yelena Origins.
Right.
You know what I called this movie in my review?
What?
Vestman Origins, Black Widow.
The origin of Black Widow's vest.
The origin of Black Widow's vest. Yeah, Pennyworth. The origin of Black Widow's vest.
Awesome. All right, moving along. We got to get to these quick because there's 30 of them. Already on 28.
Oh boy.
My number 28 is Thor: The Dark World.
I like Dark World.
Yeah, I know you do. It's got the worst villain of the entire MCU, most forgettable, worst villain.
I disagree.
Worst plot. I mean, the plot is just nothing. Nothing in this movie has any effect on anything.
That's not true.
The emergence or whatever is going on at Convergence, it's just some weird random thing that doesn't make any sense. Does not balance well between the darker tones that I think the director and the writers were trying to go for. and Feige coming in and saying, you guys need a lot more jokes here. So we tend to go to Darcy a lot, get a lot of bad jokes with
Darcy's
her
great.
and Selvig. And I like those characters. They're just used very poorly here. Natalie Portman has nothing to do.
I disagree.
Very bad. The character dynamics between Thor and Loki are excellent.
Better than they've ever been.
Hiddleston and Hemsworth are probably, you're right, better here than they've ever been. So that stuff works really well. It's, started the trope of Loki dies in every movie. So that's a little bit of a negative.
I would say Ragnarok started that as a joke.
Well, Ragnarok built on this and that. So I don't know. But anyways,
this is okay. That's fine. That's fine.
It does have some great production design. It looks really cool. A lot of the scenes,
incredible.
So it's a little too dark, but it's in the title, so I'll give it. That's fine.
Okay.
A couple cool action scenes. The final action scene I think is actually very inventive and fun. But overall, it's just a forgettable one that every time I watch it, I kind of find myself, I kind of get into it, then I kind of lose interest. And
our rankings are so opposite. This is weird.
You got this one higher, don't you? Don't tell me where you have
here's
it.
My 28. Here's my 28.
Go ahead.
My 28 is No Way Home.
Wow.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Wow.
That's my 28.
Unreal.
Because
you didn't grow up watching Tobey Maguire like I did. I saw those in the theater. I saw them in the theater.
I was born when they came out. I was born.
You were a baby. That's what I'm saying.
But I was old enough to watch all the Andrew Garfield movies.
I was old enough to go to the theaters and see all of them.
I did that with all the Andrew Garfield movies, and I watched all the Maguire movies on Blu-ray 10,000 times.
Okay, why don't you like?
I love all of the other movies that aren't this one. No Way Home.
You think it's a heartless product?
No Way Home is very much a heartless product. Half of the movie is so clearly soundstage shot, isolated bits.
Correct.
Where people just speak their lines to an empty void.
Right.
The special effects feel largely weightless.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield isn't enough. They have to have
purpose in the story, which they definitely do. They definitely do.
They do for MCU Peter.
Absolutely. It's his movie. It's his movie.
Right, you're right.
It's his movie.
You're right.
It's not their movie.
I just don't like it.
You wanted more.
I don't like it.
I get it. It has issues. I don't deny that it has issues.
I have very conflicting feelings about it.
I got you. I think here's why. Well, I'll talk about it when I get it to my.
I hate the way it's written. I hate the dialogue.
Okay.
I don't like any of the villains.
Okay.
Except for Willem Dafoe's performance as Green Goblin is excellent.
Okay.
I don't even like Doc Ock in this.
Okay.
You're missing all of the points. All these movies you referenced we're making, you're neglecting them and you're making them all into jokes that make no sense and don't matter. It's not paying enough respect to those characters,
right,
as it should have.
Okay.
Especially, I think, with Electro.
Sure.
If you think about Electro, he's not even the same character.
Right.
You might as well have brought in a different character.
All right. So we'll talk more about that when we get to it on my list. That was your 28?
28.
All right. My 27 is Thor Love and Thunder. Much like Thor the Dark World, is a mixed bag for me. So this film, I feel like it's not well balanced at all because it has so many intensely emotional, dramatic scenes. The opening sequence is so good and it's so intense and serious, and then it jumps straight to a joke, and it just you get whiplash watching this movie because like joke, serious, joke, I want to cry, joke, I want to laugh. It's so infuriating at times watching this movie because the performances are spot on, especially for Christian Bale and Natalie Portman. They are the standouts. They are fantastic. They have great storylines that have so much purpose and meaning. But then when you go to Valkyrie and Korg, you're just making silly jokes, and there's no stakes. I feel like I don't feel the weight of what Gore is doing. I wish we had more scenes with him doing what he's doing, killing the gods.
Being Gore the God Butcher.
Right, exactly. So it's just that part of it is kind of underdone. Again, Valkyrie and Korg don't really have much to do here, even though in the whole movie, I don't know why they're there. Thor himself does have a good arc. I like what they did with Thor, and Hemsworth has always delivered on Thor and what he's all about. I actually think his character does have a pretty good balance between the kind of silly stuff that we see with him in the Guardians and then later on in the movie how he's dealing with what's happening to Jane and everything.
Right.
So
I like this. I like this more than you do.
Yeah,
I have it ranked higher, but
it has the visuals are gorgeous, even though a lot of the visual effects are awful. So it's a mixed bag even on that end of things. So yeah, it's just it's one I like more than I dislike.
I would say for now, just like the tonal whiplash that you're feeling, I think is the whole message and point of the movie.
Okay, interesting.
I think it's
expand on that when you get to it.
Okay.
All right, going to your 27.
My 27 is another Spider-Man movie, Far From Home.
Okay.
I have very similar issues as No Way Home, and that Spider-Man is one of the all-time greatest superheroes in history. Such a rich mythos. So many stories can be told with him. And the ones that are told with him in the MCU are one of the most boring things you could have done with this version of the character. That's why I'm excited for the future of Spider-Man in the MCU, because it's kind of a blank slate now. But Far From Home specifically, I like what they're doing with the MCU Spider-Man villains. I think Vulture and Mysterio have been great. They really bring those characters in a modern setting in a way that works, and especially in the MCU. And it's really clever what they did with them, especially Mysterio. But it just feels so weightless. Just Peter's character, I don't know what he's learning. I don't feel what he feels. I don't know. I do not connect well.
Yeah, falls flat.
I do not connect well to this movie.
Gotcha. Moving on to my number 26, which is The Avengers from 2012, the first Avengers movie. Look, like everyone else, I was ecstatic about this movie when it came out. Could not wait to go see it. Saw it multiple times. It's just that over time, it has gotten worse and worse. I feel like this movie is poorly paced. I think that a lot of it just kind of falls flat. It's shallow. You know, there are fun character interactions. There's some fun action in it. But it overall, I just think the other Avengers movies top it on every level, every single thing that's happening. So
I'll talk about it briefly because it's not my it's my 25.
Okay, sure.
My biggest problem with it is it's retelling all of the arcs from the individual movies of the characters.
Right.
So that instead of bringing it all together and moving it forward, it brings it all together and that's it.
Yeah.
That's my only problem.
Yeah, not a lot of character development here. You know, it's just a lot of kind of quippy lines and, you know, beat each other up and team up and fight the bad guy. That's basically it. So again, it's fun to watch. You can throw it on anytime and have fun time with it. Visuals are okay, but again, the other Avengers movies just blow it out of the water.
Well, I disagree because my 26 is Age of Ultron.
Oh, okay, that's my 25.
But this is because
so we have these swaps.
Yeah. Age of Ultron doesn't do Ultron well. That's my biggest problem with it.
Sure.
It's a poor adaptation of Ultron.
I like James Spader as Ultron, though.
Sure.
He's a great actor to play the character, but just
I don't like this version of Ultron.
Yeah.
I don't like that it's Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, combined with Jarvis.
Right.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
It makes him feel less cold and machine.
Right.
Because to me, Terminator is basically Ultron.
Right.
But Ultron's more powerful than Terminator.
Right, exactly.
And he never felt that menacing to me.
True.
He never felt very dangerous.
Yeah.
This falls into the same gray color palette as many low tier MCU movies.
See, I think the color palette is better than the first Avengers movie for sure. First Avengers movie is very bright, very colorful. This one is darker, but I think that's very intentional. And I think that's also more interesting for these characters where we find them at this point where they are kind of getting to be where they're a little fractured.
Should not have been.
Yeah.
I
get it.
This movie should have been the biggest climactic our heroes are united.
Right. Well, they are at the beginning. They're at the beginning.
So that in Civil War, when we break, we really feel it.
Right.
But here we're already still not really working as a team fully that well. I mean, there's the opening scene, but it's like the way they use Hulk in this movie is they're just like using Hulk. They're not even like teaming up with Hulk. I have conflicting feelings about the Hulk Natasha relationship. I think it works from a macro point of view, but when you get down into it, I think it's just kind of weird.
It's
Pietro dies, and who cares? Because we just met him. It should have been Hawkeye. That would have been way more important.
But I like what they did with Hawkeye later.
I know. They were building that he was going to die in this movie. We met his family, and we got emotionally attached to him. And then he saved Wanda. And then he should have died instead of Quicksilver.
Well, you think they all should have died because it was Ultron.
Well, yeah. It should have been next Avengers.
The glaring issue with this movie for me is Thor's subplot. The Thor,
which subplot?
Thor tub time machine.
What Russian family?
The Thor tub time machine, which is just ridiculous and comes out of nowhere.
We need to see Eric Selvig again.
Just terrible. No.
Any excuse to see Eric Selvig,
I approve of. But all right, my number 24 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. So you had this a little bit lower than me. I think it's a funny kind of. I look at it as kind of like a road trip movie. It's like a field trip. Another kind of one of these.
Another kind of useless, weightless, emotionless piece of trash.
Well, what I like about it is how it does deal with the fallout of Endgame, and how Tony's relationship with Peter was probably his most important relationship outside of Aunt May.
Instead of Peter being home with his family, he goes somewhere where he knows no one.
Right, but the thing is that he wants to get away. He wants to. We see him at the beginning of the movie, and everyone's like, "Are you the new Iron Man?" He wants to get away from all this, so he goes on this field trip, and he runs into trouble. And when he runs into Mysterio, he's looking for a way out of Spider-Man. He's looking for a way out. He's done.
So
when he's given this opportunity, he takes it. And he doesn't think about it because he's a teenager. He makes a bad decision, and that's a part of his arc in this movie. And so I do enjoy that aspect of it. You're right. A lot of it feels weightless. There's not big stakes or anything. A lot of the comedy kind of falls flat. But there's some cool visuals. I like what they did with the elementals.
Because of No Way Home, no relationship between MJ or Ned with Peter matters to anyone but Peter.
I see what you mean.
So literally, when this new Spider-Man movie comes out, previous information about Far From Home and No Way Home and Homecoming will not have mattered.
It depends on what they do. But again,
I like Ned. I like MJ.
Yeah.
They're fun characters.
Right.
I have fun with them.
Yeah.
But I don't really care about them.
Right. I got you. I do like the sequence that stands out, obviously, is the Mysterio sequence where it's the illusion and he fights Mysterio and the
very
illusion.
Fun.
It's right out of the comic books. It's excellent.
Snow globe head. I approve.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that one's fun. But yeah, not my favorite of the Spider-Man movies. Not my favorite of the MCU.
The message should have been: you can take Spidey out of New York, but you can't take New York out of Spidey.
Right.
And that was not the message.
True. All right, on to your 24. What do you got?
My 24 is Ant-Man.
Oh,
the first Ant-Man.
This one's way
higher on my list. I love the first Ant-Man. I just think it's outdone by its sequel.
Okay.
I think everything about the sequel is better.
Okay.
But I really like the first Ant-Man movie. It falls a little bit into cliche territory with as far as just regular screenwriting goes and the MCU. The color palette's a little drab, except for some really, really creative action sequences with Ant-Man, where it's the gunfights and there's a little model. There's a little model miniature that's made that he's running around in. The fight in the bedroom at the end is perfect. The emotional heart of Scott and Cassie and their father-daughter thing is excellent. I have few complaints about this movie other than it's Ant-Man. It's fun. It's cool.
Sure.
It doesn't do anything super important.
Right.
But it's kind of exactly what an MCU movie should be. If I had to personify the MCU into what most of them are like, it would be the first Ant-Man movie.
All right, my number 23 is Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange movie.
If I hadn't rewatched it recently, I would have agreed with you.
Look, it's Iron Man with magic, you know? I mean, it's basically that same formula.
I disagree. It's a little different. It's a little different.
Look, the third act, I'll give it a lot of credit for the third act because they do something here that is totally unique with the third act. It is really fun. It's not just another, mirror image of the hero fighting the bad guy who's just like him. It's really unique. And so that part is really cool. The visuals in this are stunning, really unique visuals. Great Giacchino score. Benedict Cumberbatch is good in this role. I think this is his worst performance as
Camartage.
The accent isn't quite there, but it's fine. Mads Mikkelsen is great. Rachel McAdams is good, but she's underused. So it's just it's got a lot going for it. It's just not quite in that upper tier of Marvel movies. I kind of feel kind of similarly to how you feel about Ant-Man, I think, where it's like a lot I like about it. It's not quite up to par with some of the great ones. So
my 23 is Thor Ragnarok.
Okay. I think that's my 22. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can both talk about that.
Well, my 22 is Doctor Strange.
Oh, cool. Perfect.
So we're almost in sync.
Oh, again, we swapped those.
Yeah. Okay. Doctor Strange, real quick.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to add to what you said was the movie's about Doctor Strange overcoming his fear of failure.
Sure.
The whole movie, he's afraid of failing, and he
desire to fix everything. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That was something the Ancient One said.
Yeah. She said it's not. She says it's not about you.
Yeah, that this is what's made you a great surgeon, and now you need to be something more.
Right.
But he wins by failing 100,000 times over and over.
Right. Exactly.
So I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Just that alone, kind of the synergy of the arc, that kind of the whole movie's centered around, works really well. Also, visually, unlike anything we've ever seen.
All right, now to Ragnarok.
So Thor Ragnarok, this movie's easy to hate and to tear apart because there are some things in it that are silly, that are just you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just
almost cringy.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's kind of making fun of these characters to a point where it almost feels like a parody.
Yeah, but I think the fine line between that is it's not making fun of them, it's having fun with them. To me, that's what it's doing. That's what YTD's doing here. And that's why this one's so much higher than Love and Thunder, is because here he did strike the balance, I feel, between just all-out comedy. I mean, it's a zany, comedic space adventure, right?
It's very colorful.
But when it gets emotional, it lets it sit for a moment before it goes to the next joke. Specifically, Odin's death. I feel like Odin's death is dealt with very well.
There are many moments of this movie I really like. I just don't love it as a whole. I don't like Hela.
Okay. I don't mind Hela. I think Hela is actually an interesting villain for what the story is, because this is a story about Thor becoming the king he needs to be.
You're right.
And she is the perfect catalyst for making that happen, because she's coming in trying to usurp the throne. You find out she's his sister and what she and Odin did and all of that stuff.
But she's one-dimensional.
She is one-dimensional. That's true.
She exists again for that purpose.
Sure.
Of Thor overcoming the sins of his father.
Right. Exactly.
Which she represents.
Exactly. Right.
Loki is not treated well in this movie.
Yeah.
Could have done so much more with him.
Sure.
You have Loki and Thor together. They have excellent chemistry. We know this from Dark World. You don't capitalize on it. It's a big missed opportunity. Yeah. Hulk is completely wasted in this film, as he often is.
I think they have fun with Hulk, though. That's the thing about that. And I don't mind them, because it's been so long since we've seen Hulk from Age of Ultron, that he is a little different. And he's changed. And he's now this gladiator warrior who's kind of living this life on this planet.
It's all off screen. It's all off screen.
I agree, but
all of it's off screen.
But I'm just saying what they do with him and what they end up doing with Bruce is actually really interesting. Because remember, when he becomes Bruce again, it's like, if I turn back into Hulk, I've been Hulk for like 3 years. I don't know if I'm going to turn back.
Yeah.
And so it is this kind of moment of sacrifice where he becomes Hulk to save the day. And kind of, this is the start of him making peace with Hulk. where we end up with him in Endgame, which I know people have mixed feelings about. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But I just think it's an interesting thing. I like the visuals of this.
Very colorful.
I really like the music.
Music's awesome.
Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum, of course, is great. So that's all we'll say about Ragnarok. Moving on to my 21 is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
That's my number 20.
Okay, interesting. I'll go first. This is quite a unique movie, and I like how this movie deals with the mythology of the MCU, getting the mythology of the Ten Rings, the Mandarin, all of that stuff that was set up way back in Iron Man 1.
I don't like the subtitle of this movie.
I don't mind it. I think it's fine. It feels like an Indiana Jones title, so I like it. So I like Shang-Chi. I like his character, where he comes from. He has a unique backstory. Aquafina is great as his best friend. She's tons of fun.
Yep, she is.
So I like them. I like
Shang-Chi. I like his character.
Yeah, me too. He's really interesting character, and Tony Leung does such a great job as his father. One of the great MCU villains, I think, because he is this ancient being who's gone through all this, what they went through with their mother, and I mean, just really great backstory.
Marvel needs to stop killing their villains.
I know.
It's
I agree.
A big problem.
I agree.
Because you're running out of them.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, excellent action sequences. I think the visual effects hold up really well. Yeah, it's just one that I have a lot of fun with, that I just feel is different. And it has certain formulaic elements to it, but I think the elements that are there, the characters especially, work really well, and are characters that I can't wait to see more of. So that's a big strength of this one.
Dragon. It's a dragon.
There are dragons too. Yeah. Yes. So what's your 21?
My 21 is Black Panther.
Oh.
Is that your 22?
No.
I like Black Panther a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack about Black Panther. It's a very dense movie, and it has a lot of really, really cool things it's doing and saying. I don't really have any complaints about Black Panther. It has one of the best villains we've ever had in the MCU. The special effects are obviously weak toward the end. Not as weak as I remembered them being.
Yeah,
but still pretty meh.
A little too much.
When it comes to Black Panther, it's mostly just little annoyances, little like things that kind of bother me.
Little moments.
Yeah. Like rhinos.
Right.
Rhinos.
Mostly the rhinos.
Yeah, and mostly the rhinos. Yeah. And then, there are just a couple other little, like, some characters don't get enough time. Other characters get too much. I kind of wish the whole movie was about M'Baku, but that's my problem.
I wanted more Claw. Andy Serkis's Claw.
Claw is great. I'm sorry they killed him, but it's also crucial.
It is.
I really wish they hadn't killed Killmonger. I get why they did.
After seeing Wakanda Forever, I don't mind.
It makes sense. I get it, but so great.
Yeah. His death scene is one of the best death scenes in the entire Marvel universe too.
They did an excellent job building the mythology of Wakanda. The design is unheard of since Tron Legacy. Not since Tron Legacy has a mythological world looked this cool.
Right.
So
yeah,
I like Black Panther a lot.
Good pick. That's your 21. All right, my number 20 is Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ooh.
So this is the Ant-Man sequel, which I don't think is quite as good as the original. I don't think it does a good enough job with the family elements.
Disagree.
I feel like
this one's all about family.
I mean, it is, but at the same time, I just feel like it's, I don't know.
This is as much about family as Fast and Furious is about family.
True. That's what I like about the Ant-Man movies. That's why they're both in my top 20, because they are family oriented. I just feel like the first one, I don't know if I feel like that connected with them more on the first one or what, but this one has a great use of the PIM particle, the shrinking tech, and the growing tech, which is a new element to this one.
This movie, more than literally maybe any other MCU movie, makes Civil War impactful.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel the impact of Civil War in Ant-Man and Wasp
about it
more than I do in Endgame and Infinity War.
It also leads right into Infinity War. So this is one of those great ones that kind of does connect the universe in an interesting way, but it tells its own story. It is a standalone story, I feel like. The villain Ghost, I think, is very sympathetic. Her whole backstory is really good.
Glad she's coming back.
And yeah, me too. Really glad about that. So it's one I enjoy. It's one I greatly enjoy. I think there's a lot of fun to be had here. It's really fun. It's easy to watch.
This one's very high on my list.
Yeah, it's not very heavy, you know, it's just a fun, very funny. I don't think it's as funny as the first. It's just everything about the first one.
I think it's even more funny.
I don't think the action is as good. I don't think it's as funny. I don't think it's as emotional. It's all those elements I just think are a little bit less than the first one. But I don't think it's bad.
I might give you the action.
Yeah.
Because the first Ant-Man has very creative sequences.
It does. It does. So that's my number 20. What's your 20?
My 20 is Shang-Chi.
Oh, great. Yeah. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, Shang-Chi was great. Yeah. I like Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Excellent Kung Fu. One of my biggest problems with the MCU is their costumes are all terrible. Shang-Chi is no exception.
Yeah.
I think that for some reason, all of their costumes are over-designed. They all have lines and weird designs all over the whole costume, top to like head to toe.
Yeah, it's a little too much.
And it's just much. Like Shang-Chi's costume in the comics is
very simple.
A bandana and like pants. And it's like the simplest costume, and you made it this like dragon scale. Like it's just weird. Like it's like this like armored leather thing. Anyways, that's a nitpick, but Shang-Chi, I really like his character. I really like his sister. I really like their relationship with their dad. And I like that Shang-Chi kills somebody and that it makes a big difference. It's a big deal for him. And that really matters.
Definitely.
Great. I liked it. I liked the movie a lot.
And don't forget, Trevor Slattery.
Trevor Slattery, of course.
The best part of the movie.
This movie brought back one of the all-time greatest MCU villains.
Right.
Second only to Justin Hammer.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We'll talk more about them soon.
Yeah.
All right.
It'll be Hammer time coming up.
My number 19 is Spider-Man Homecoming. So Spider-Man Homecoming, the first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie.
Ooh.
This is the one that takes place right after Captain America Civil War, which is where he was introduced. Builds off of that. His relationship with Tony Stark, the kind of mentorship relationship. We get to meet Aunt May. We get to meet MJ and Ned and all these interesting characters I really like as part of this high school setting. It has that John Hughes Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off feel. It's got one of the great Marvel villains, Vulture. Michael Keaton knocks it out of the park. He's menacing. He's relatable. You get why he's doing what he's doing. It's just really, really
driving him to Homecoming is the best scene in the movie. It tells you everything you need.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it's just fun. Yeah. It's easy to watch. One of my favorite Spider-Man movies, actually. It's gone up in my mind since I've watched it.
I have mine's ranked much higher than yours.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
My number 19 is Iron Man 3.
Oh, okay. That's my 18.
Oh, okay, cool. Iron Man 3 rocks.
Yeah.
It's the greatest Iron Man theme ever written.
Oh, sure.
The score is incredible. There are more than 3 Iron Men in this movie. There are 43. Iron Man 2 gave us 2 Iron Men. Iron Man 1 gave us 1.
Exactly.
And 3 gave us 43.
43, that's right. Iron Man 43.
I like the villain because he's just Syndrome from Incredibles.
Yes.
So I can't say I don't like him.
Totally.
And I like the twist with the Mandarin. I really do. I like Trevor Slattery. I think it really works.
Oh yeah, me too. Huge fan of that twist.
I love Harley.
The
little kid.
Sure.
I really, really like and think that's crucial for Tony's character. I think this deals with the aftermath of Avengers better than any other movie after it.
It's all about that.
It's all about his PTSD over seeing aliens for the first time.
Right.
Such a simple thing, but it really, really focused on that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I really like Iron Man 3 a lot. I think it's super, super underrated. Great Christmas film.
Yeah, it is a Christmas film, like all Shane Black movies. And he writes it really well. He directs it well. It's got some really cool action sequences. What they do with the suits is really cool in the third act. It's kind of a political thriller. It has kind of a Jason Bourne, James Bond vibe at times. But yeah, very character driven, like you said. It's all about Tony and his psyche and what he's going through. And so this one's right there at number 18 because it's a really solid entry.
My number 18 is Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh, much higher than mine.
Much higher than yours.
Okay.
So
why do you like this one so much?
So I have this up here because it's visually awesome. Very spectacular visuals.
Yeah.
Except for the midnight battle in the city, which is terrible.
Midnight Battle in the City is awful, and I'm not a huge fan of Olympia City either. I think that's just so CGI throw up.
I get it. I get it.
Go ahead.
I like what it does from a character point of view.
Sure.
For Thor.
Sure.
Like him meeting his heroes like that,
right.
and I think that's important for him.
Yeah.
And for Jane too. I think
Sure.
Jane's the standout in this movie. This is her
Definitely.
movie.
Definitely.
The Mighty Thor, it should have been called.
Should have. Totally. I agree.
But it's okay because Love and Thunder works because it's about love. It's about Thor showing love to the villain.
Yeah. Love your enemies.
And standing up for love.
Right.
Choosing love over death.
Mm-hmm.
And vengeance.
Yep.
Gore is a great villain.
Yes.
Visually, the performance is spectacular. This movie has a bunch of kids. It's almost like a Robert Rodriguez movie at the end. They all get superpowers and blow up shadow monsters, and it's silly and fun. And I'm along for the ride the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the little Guardians cameo is just gets me amped up for Guardians 3.
Yes.
And I really like what they did with Jane and with her battle with cancer and the way that she coped with it.
Yeah.
Going along for one last fun ride.
Sure.
Kind of being her philosophy on it.
Right.
And that carries over to the movie's tonal shifting.
Yeah.
And there are terrible, sad, tragic things happening. It's very emotional. But instead of dwelling on that, we're going to give us one last hurrah. And that's what the whole movie is to me. And I think it works for that.
All right, my 17, Iron Man 2.
Ooh, you put my number 1 at 17. I'm kidding.
Iron Man 2. This one gets a lot of hate. A lot of people have this much lower on their list, but it's just too much fun. Honestly, this movie, I could watch it all day. This is one of those movies I can throw on any time. It is so funny.
Hilarious.
It might be one of the funniest MCU movies by far. The interactions between the characters are great. A lot of this one was improv as well, just like the first Iron Man. Sam Rockwell is Justin Hammer. He has to come back. Can't wait for him to come back.
I think he's literally my favorite MCU villain of all time.
Great. He's such a great character. Mickey Rourke as Whiplash, I think, is very menacing, very scary.
Underrated. I really wish she was still alive.
Yeah, and just the visual of the whips and everything. I mean, it's just so cool looking. That Monaco race action sequence is awesome.
Yeah.
Introduction of War Machine. We got Don Cheadle in here as Rhodey, and he just knocked it out of the park.
Didn't expect to see you here.
Right, exactly. So all that stuff works really well. The self-destructive behavior Tony's going through, what he's dealing with.
Black Widow.
Facing death. The introduction of Black Widow is great. So just character-wise, it builds on everything that Iron Man 1 did. It's a different kind of story. It deals with him and his dad and their relationship.
Yep.
Howard Stark's in here. So, Nick Fury's brought in. It expands the universe, while also, telling a story about this character that I think was necessary to get him to where we have him next. So
my only complaint is a little too much holograph stuff.
I love holograms.
Like the holograms, there's like so many.
I want it.
To a point where
I want one.
At one point the whole screen was covered.
It's true.
With holograms.
It's true. Fun technology though. What's your 17?
My 17 is Civil War.
Ooh.
And Civil War's at 17 because in terms of the universe, it matters less and less the more I think about it.
Okay.
It's supposed to be this super impactful, super important thing.
Yeah.
And it is to an extent.
Okay.
But it's not as world changing as I think it could be.
Okay.
And that's my problem with when they're adapting these bigger stories. This is my same problem with Age of Ultron.
Right.
Is that you have these big stories that are supposed to change the status quo forever. And they really don't.
Yeah.
But Civil War's great. I really enjoy Civil War. It's some of the best Spider-Man we've had in the MCU. It's some of the best Black Panther we've had in the MCU. Definitely the best Bucky we've had. I think Cap is excellent in this. Yes. Iron Man, his motivation makes a lot of sense for him.
Yep. I
wish they went a little bit more into Black Widow being kind of a turncoat, because I think that's a lot of her character to me. Yeah. I like Civil War a lot. It's very entertaining. The airport battle scene is awesome. I just wish it wasn't in an airport. I wish it wasn't concrete and gray the whole time. That's just a big problem that the MCU has. But the fact that they can juggle all these characters and tell a cohesive story and one that is fun and engaging through and through, Very impressive.
Yep.
Civil War's great.
All right, on to my 16, which is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is the most bonkers MCU movie ever made. They got Sam Raimi in here to just basically make an Evil Dead movie, and they did it. It was kind of crazy watching this happen because all his style is there. I mean, the camera, whip pans, snap zooms, all that's there. And so I was just glad that they let him kind of let loose a little bit. It's got these horror elements that are just really interesting. And of course, we get great new characters like America Chavez. I think she's a really interesting new character. Can't wait to see what they do with her. Wanda comes in, the Scarlet Witch, and is our antagonist here and does a great job. Elizabeth Olsen, one of my favorite performances she's given. So a lot of complexity going on with her character in this. So what she does is great. Doctor Strange has an arc. He does a great job. Benedict Cumberbatch is really at home in this character now and delivers one of his best performances. They finally utilize Rachel McAdams to her full potential here, I think, that is really well done. And the plethora of cameos from Black Bolt to Mr. Fantastic. Professor X. We got Peggy Carter back, Captain Carter, you know, and
it's a big fun movie.
Yeah, it's fun. It's silly, it's crazy, it's wild, it's very imaginative. The visuals are striking, and that's what I wanted out of the MCU. I wanted more of that, and they gave it to me. So
I'll talk about it pretty soon. My number 16 is Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Okay, cool.
I liked Homecoming a lot. Vulture's incredible. His being a literal vulture, and that he takes the scraps of old wreckage.
He's a junker.
He's literally a junker vulture guy. That's what he does.
He only leaves the bones behind.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
It's a great idea.
So
really cool.
I like Homecoming.
Yeah.
I think it's the best MCU Spider-Man movie. I think it's because he's in New York and he's helping people. I just wish he wasn't so focused on pleasing Mr. Stark.
Yeah, but that's the arc.
After this movie. I wish he wasn't that still so Stark focused after this.
You're talking about Infinity War, Endgame,
all that. That's the lesson he should have learned in this.
Right.
Is don't be so reliant on better heroes.
Becoming an Avenger. That's the whole thing.
Be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Right. Be a New York hero. Stay in New York. Never leave.
Yeah, I love how small scale this film is. It's all New York. It's all like I love the montage of him just dealing with New Yorkers on the street and
the best part of the movie.
People out.
Yeah.
So good.
Excellent.
So good. All right, 15. On to my number 15, which is Ant-Man.
Good one.
So I've got Ant-Man at 15. This is, like I said, it's just the family-oriented story, father-daughter story. I've got 3 daughters, so I really connect with this one. I think it's the funniest. It's right up there with Guardians and, Iron Man 2 as being one of the funniest. Just the jokes all land. It's a heist movie, which is a unique kind of genre for them to tackle in the MCU. So it's got that cool element to it. Scott Lang's such a unique hero. I guess you could call him an anti-hero because he's a criminal. He's kind of reformed criminal. He's a hero, and he's got a great crew. Luis and all those guys. They're great. The introduction to Hope Van Dyne and what happened to her mother, the original Wasp, and
which Ant-Man and Wasp does better.
Yeah, but I like the father-daughter story with her and Hank and how that parallels Scott and Cassie.
Sure.
In this.
That's
better
cool. Yeah.
To me, that they do a better job with that than they did in the sequel. So Michael Douglas, great addition to the MCU. Having him as Hank Pym, such a pivotal character in the comics. You needed an actor with that kind of weight to play that character, and he just nailed it. So super fun. Like you mentioned with the action sequences, they're so inventive.
Yep.
So
my 15 is Iron Man 2.
Okay.
Which we talked about briefly.
Yep.
Justin Hammer, perfect.
Yeah.
We went over a bunch of the same points. Palladium poisoning is a great idea.
Like that.
Tony's dying this whole movie. It's very good. It's well done. It's super entertaining, and it's really important for his character.
Yeah, I agree. All right, on to 14. My 14 is Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Wow, this is a new one.
Yeah, this is the one that just came out. We're ranking all 30, so this one had to rank in there somewhere, and this is where I put it. It's kind of right in the middle, upper middle, because I've only seen it once. Very impactful, very emotional, very engaging. Really like the movie. I've only seen it one time, so I couldn't quite put it any higher. But I definitely couldn't put it any lower because this is a really, really well-made film. And don't want to get into too much of it because we just reviewed it if you want to go back and listen to that. But really good, really emotional, dramatic film, spectacular visuals. So yeah, had to go in at number 14. What's your 14?
My 14 is Multiverse of Madness.
Okay.
Sam Raimi directed. That means it's visually fun. It's got a lot of flair.
Yep.
Wanda's an excellent villain.
Yeah.
Her character's great.
Mm-hmm.
Multiverse of Madness, it dips a little too much into multiversal cameo, silly haha fun stuff. I like America Chavez as a character. She's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see more from her. Steven has nothing to do in this movie. I don't think he has much of an arc or does anything of much value.
Okay.
Christine is great.
Yeah.
Love Christine. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's very fun MCU, but it has that Sam Raimi artistic flair that sets it above the standard. And that's kind of what we're getting into now, I think, is above average.
Sure. All right. On to my number 13, Spider-Man No Way Home. So I like this one a lot more than you do.
Peter, you remember me? It's Flint Marco. I killed your uncle. You remember me? You remember? Do you remember him?
Yeah, I do. I saw Spider-Man 3 multiple times.
Okay.
And I like that movie, actually.
Cool.
But yeah, look, I mean, it's not perfect.
Do you know that the dinosaur can talk? Did you know that?
Yeah, I did, because I saw Amazing Spider-Man back in 2012.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So look, I mean, it's not perfect, like you're bringing up. There's issues with it. It's got problems. But this movie is Tom Holland's Spider-Man origin. This is the movie where he finally comes into his own, and they tell an emotional story about how, you know, his identity's out there, his life is ruined, but it's not just his life, it's the lives of the people around him. And that's what he's trying to fix. And he goes about doing it a wrong way, because again, he's young.
Took him 6 movies to get an origin.
Exactly. Which is fine with me. I mean, I don't care. Give him 10 movies. I don't care.
Yikes.
But look, you know, it's the way that the other Spider-Men help him.
You're right.
Is so impactful, because we learn about what they've been up to since we last saw them, and how they're able to teach this young Peter Parker, who's just now coming into his own, is so well done. It's got some really great visuals. A lot of the visual effects don't work, but
it has one really awesome shot, and it's all digital. It's the shot where he's looking at the billboard.
Yeah, that's a great shot. I like the Doctor Strange battle. I think that's a fun moment. I had a lot of fun watching that, where he beats him with geometry. It's fun.
Seen it.
It's fun though. It's fun. It's 2 superheroes fighting. It's very comic booky, you know, which I like about it.
Sure. It's not Into the Spider-Verse. That's my problem.
That's true.
That everything I like about this has been done better in every other movie.
Sure. I get it. It makes sense. But the Sinister Five are fun. I think I actually have fun watching them interact.
How embarrassing.
I think Willem Dafoe's on another level. He surpasses his performance in the Tobey Maguire films by far.
What?
I think this performance
as Doc Ock?
No, Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin.
Really?
Oh yeah. This is the best we've ever seen Willem Dafoe. I mean, this is he's so menacing. He's conniving. He's intelligent.
Okay.
He goes after Peter. He goes after his heart. I mean, it's exactly what Green Goblin is and what he is in the comics, and even the character design they changed to make him look more like the comic book version of Green Goblin.
He wasn't wearing a Power Ranger suit.
Exactly.
I'll give him that.
I love that they smashed the helmet. It was great. Great shot. Great moment. So what they do with all that, what they do with Aunt May, heartbreaking. So important what they do with her in that movie. And the final shot is utter perfection. So the final sequence, the final swing, is the greatest final swing we've ever gotten. Snowing in New York City.
It's close.
In the classic suit. It's great. So
now I want to see a Spider-Man movie.
Exactly.
After 6 movies, now I'm excited.
Correct.
All right.
13. That was 13. What's your 13?
My 13 is Endgame.
Why is Endgame so incredibly low on your list?
I don't think it's that low. 13 is pretty high. That's top 15. Of 30 movies, this is in the better half.
True.
Endgame is a little too big for its britches, I think.
Okay.
It is focused on Tony Stark and focused on Captain America. And that's good, and it should be. And I think really this being this ranking is a testimony to the quality of the rest of the MCU. Because it's a great movie. It's amazing that how much they're able to juggle again with a movie of this size and this length. It's well paced for as long as it is, and everyone kind of gets their moments, but it feels very much like a committee's movie where I don't get any singular vision visually or any singular stylistically.
Okay.
It's just it's an Avengers movie, and that's like bringing all of us under the same roof, all these different characters, these colorful styles, instead of embracing what makes all of these characters different stylistically. It's bringing them all together under a monotone, realistic looking world, right? So that's probably my biggest kind of gripe with Endgame, and really just the major Avengers movies.
Okay.
It gives us the happy ending, which is good. This is why I favor Infinity War over it, obviously, because Infinity War does something dramatic and intense and meaningful that should have a big impact. And we feel a lot of the impact in the early half of this movie. Time travel is where the movie really loses me. Once we start time traveling and we start, it just, the weight starts to get lessen and lessen until, of course, the big Tony sacrifice and how important all of it is. And it's a terrific movie. It's a monument of the MCU. It's crucial part, the end of an era. So yeah, that's my number 13.
All right, my number 12 is Captain America: Civil War. So you touched on this one already. I've got a little higher than you.
High praise.
Yeah, I think it's look, I think this is an intense psychological thriller, is how the directors have kind of talked about it, because it is dealing with Bucky and what he's going through and kind of his psyche and the larger kind of political landscape, and how people are dealing with these superheroes. You know, should they be policed and governed by authority, or should they be free to do what they want? The whole ideological difference between the Avengers, between Cap and Iron Man, is interesting. And the way they balance this very large cast, I mean, it's basically an Avengers movie, right?
Sure, it is.
And so, because it deals with all of them and how they all respond to this in unique ways. And so, yeah, it's just really well done. I think the way they seamlessly introduce Black Panther is really well done. I think maybe Spider-Man's introduction is a little more jarring, a little more doesn't quite fit as well. It feels a little more forced, but it's still pretty well done. And
I was ecstatic.
Yeah, I mean,
when I saw it for the first time.
Oh yeah, me too. Just on rewatches, it's like, yeah, you can tell they kind of just wanted Spidey in there, and that's fine, and it works.
We didn't think we were gonna get Spidey.
Exactly.
That's what made it so amazing.
Correct.
It was at a point when we didn't think it was possible to get characters from other studios in these movies.
Exactly.
And now we have. Now it's like,
yeah, we got everybody.
Nothing is off the table at this point.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. Action sequences are really good overall. The airport battle, I feel like, is a cool action sequence. Like you said, the visuals are a little flat. I think all the other action sequences are better. The one in Bucky's apartment is great.
Super good.
Which leads to the freeway chase, which is awesome. The opening scene in Lagos is really good. I feel like how the team's working together there. Yeah. So really cool, and just great. I think it's very emotional, especially when you get into Tony's backstory and what happened with his parents and all that. I mean, that's just really a gut punch of a finale. That they didn't go bigger. With that finale, they went more personal. It's just 3 characters, and so really well done. Zemo, one of my favorite villains. He's
so glad he's not dead.
Me too.
Thanks, Black Panther.
Yes.
Yes. Oh no.
Yeah. And so glad that Black Panther didn't let him do that, because that is a part of his arc in that film, is turning away from vengeance and that whole thing. So it's really well done. It's just on every level, so many characters to balance that they do such a good job with. We get the great Vision and Wanda stuff there too. So yeah, just super well done. Just a few kind of nitpicky things that I didn't care for about it.
My number 12 is Infinity War.
Ooh, okay.
I like Infinity War a lot.
Okay.
This one I think suffers very much from CGI action sequences that feel lackluster. A lot of characters are divided during this, and
Which is
that's the point.
That's what I'll
It's
mention
important.
about Civil War. You said it didn't have as big impact, and I think this movie is where we actually see the impact.
Sure.
Because if they were together, they probably would have won.
Yeah.
But they're divided at the beginning of this movie because of what happened in
Sure.
Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And so another thing about Civil War is I wish there were a little bit more stakes. Maybe someone should have died. I know Rhodey got seriously injured, but
and when I say divided, it feels to me when I watch it like Tony is the only one who is divided. Like the fight at Wakanda, everybody is there except for Tony. It feels like. I know Doctor Strange isn't there, and I know whatever, but we don't really know him at this point.
True.
So it's like the impact of that relationship. It feels like that battle at Wakanda, everyone is united, and we gave it our all. It's like the only people who weren't there were like Tony.
Guardians, Tony, and Strange, Spidey. Yeah. There are a few that weren't there. Yeah. So
Infinity War is a great movie.
Yeah,
it's Thanos' movie.
Yeah.
Thanos is a great character.
It's my number 11.
Okay,
so
cool.
we'll talk about it both right now. And yeah, it's just an epic cosmic story. Love how they bring in the Guardians. It's such a great moment.
Perfect introduction.
They come in with Thor and everything. It's just it's got great moments of levity. So really well done. Great story about sacrifice. And it's another kind of heist film. Thanos is going after all these stones, and it is his movie. And that's why, I have it not quite in my top 10 because it doesn't feel like a complete story for me. If you look at it from Thanos' perspective, it is. But it's called Avengers Infinity War, not Thanos Infinity War. So I feel like you have to have Endgame next to it in order for it to fully work.
Right.
But really bold ending. Definitely. For sure. So really good.
My 11 is Ant-Man and Wasp.
Okay.
Which we've talked about before.
Okay.
I think everything in this movie is better than the first one.
Yep.
In every way.
Yep.
I think that the comedy hits harder. I think that the emotion runs deeper.
Yep.
The effects of Civil War being so ever present,
right,
to a point where Hope and Hank aren't even talking to Scott anymore,
right,
is like so cool. I really wish we had seen more like that in the other subsequent sequels to these movies.
Sure.
But it's okay. We only got one movie in between there, so and one of them took place in the 90s. Right. So exactly. Wasn't really going to happen.
Yeah.
But Ant-Man and the Wasp, I really enjoy it. It's a movie that for whatever reason is watched endlessly at my household. I've seen it maybe a dozen times. Yeah. It's just the kind of movie that really is the golden standard for MCU stuff.
All right, on to my number 10. We're now in the top 10 MCU movies. My number 10.
This is going to get controversial.
It's
quick.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
This is your 10?
This is my 10. I know. It's hard to place these top 10 because they're all so good. But look, it's another one that's dealing very intensely with family relationships, specifically fathers and sons. It's a movie that it can be a little meandering, I feel like, because it's kind of a hangout movie. It's kind of just like you're hanging out with these characters. You're just having fun.
I think it's less of a hangout movie than the first one.
Okay. Interesting. I feel like this one doesn't have that driving plot element that first one has. This one's just like, we meet this guy, we're on this planet, we find out these things, and then stuff happens.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that too. It's fun. It's great. James Gunn does a great job directing. The visuals are stunning. The cast is excellent. Great character interactions and character development happens here for all of our characters. So lots of fun, and also makes Volume 2 might be even better than Volume 1.
I'll talk about it later because it's so much higher on my list.
It's hilarious.
All right, so my 10 is Thor: The Dark World. I know, Thor: The Dark World. Everybody hates it. I really like Thor: The Dark World a lot.
Clearly.
I think this movie is maybe, other than The Incredible Hulk, the most underrated MCU movie of all time.
Okay.
I think that Thor: The Dark World nails Thor in every way. This is exactly what I think Thor should be, to me.
Yeah. It's more Viking.
It's very Shakespearean.
Yeah.
He's learned his lesson from the first movie, and it's a movie about he and Loki's relationship post Avengers.
Right.
And that is so much the heart. Loki's one of the best characters in the MCU.
Yeah.
And their brotherhood and their banter and their struggle to work together is better in Dark World than it's ever been anywhere else. The design of the Dark Elves, of Asgard, of even of Earth, even of just regular Earth life, everything there is awesome looking. I don't know what happened to the production design, but it looks so amazing.
Yeah.
So incredible. So creative.
Mm-hmm.
So intricate.
Mm-hmm.
So lived in and so real.
Yeah.
The Dark Elves, I think, are really cool. I think the Dark Elves are really cool. They don't have much
characterization.
They don't have much characterization. That's fine, because that's not what the movie's really about.
Yeah.
They matter, and they're important for Thor and for his he's using his hammer as a tool to build and not as a weapon to destroy, as he did in the first one.
Okay.
So he's building bridges between the 9 realms, and that's the tool the villain uses in the plot. Right. Is he's bridging the 9 realms, but he's bridging them to march his armies over the bridge. Right. And Thor is he has to put a stop to that. So it's not just Thor growing and learning all the lessons from previous films. It's also a continuation and a advancement of everything that came before. It's great. I really enjoy Thor: The Dark World.
My number 9 is Thor.
Me too.
The original. Okay, we both have this at 9.
Yes,
that's funny. All right, so yeah, number 9 is Thor, because Thor, I feel like, is another one that's very underrated. People don't give it enough credit for what it did. It really opened up the MCU to the cosmic, which we hadn't
and
seen
to the
before.
fantasy.
To the fantasy, yeah, it's a fantasy epic. It's a kind of fantasy world that we're introduced to with Asgard. Beautiful design of Asgard. Ken Branagh did a great job directing it, and it's got that Shakespearean element to it. The great relationship between Thor and Loki is introduced, and their father, Odin. Anthony Hopkins is great.
One thing also, touching on Dark World real quick, is the music. Better in Dark World than maybe any other MCU movie. The music in Thor: The Dark World is incredible. Incredible.
Very high praise.
It's not the best, but it is up there.
Gotcha.
It's in my top 5 scores of the MCU for sure.
Well, Patrick Doyle's score for Thor is great. His theme is excellent.
Definitely.
And this is a great fish out of water story. I really like how he's introduced to...
It's a great Thor score.
Exactly. Darcy, Jane, Selvig, they're all great.
The Warriors 3.
Warriors 3 are great.
They're great in this.
Sif.
They're even better in Dark World.
Sif is great in this too.
Sif is excellent.
So it's just fun. It's a fun story. It's got that great blend of humor, and it's got a lot of heart. It's got a great character arc. Coulson's in it. The Destroyer. I mean, all this
just
that
really, little
Frost Giants.
Yeah, it's that little fun. I care more about that little New Mexico town than I do about New York and Far From Home.
I know.
It's amazing.
I know.
Or I guess in No Way Home.
Yeah, you don't see it in Far From Home.
Yeah. Oh man.
Any more to say about Thor?
Disaster.
Any more to say about Thor?
No, that's it. I like it. It's good.
Fun. It's
solid.
It just doesn't
Loki
get
does a great job.
Yeah, Loki is a great villain. His whole plan is great. Their whole battle is great. Yeah, it's just really solid arc, character arc.
Yeah,
storytelling, Dutch angles. It's all there. My number 8 is Black Panther.
You know what's funny?
What?
My number 8 is also Black Panther.
Really?
But it's not the first Black Panther.
Oh, Wakanda Forever. Interesting. Yeah, because Black Panther lower.
Yeah, much lower.
Yeah, I think this first Black Panther film is truly revolutionary. Honestly, I think the kind of story it's telling, how socially relevant, how political it gets, is just so unique for the MCU. It's just got a great sense of atmosphere, the color, the culture, of Wakanda, like you mentioned when you were talking about the world building there. It's just so great. Getting to know them and the tribes and how the politics work, and all of it is just so well done. The way they bring in Claw, the way they bring in Killmonger, his whole backstory. It's just really well done. The action sequences are stunning. That casino scene in North Korea, that sequence is one of my favorite action sequences in all of the MCU, and really well done. Great ending, very impactful yeah, we already talked about Killmonger.
Mhm.
What a great kind
Yep.
of character he is. So yeah, I just had to put it up there
Mhm.
because I rewatched it recently and it was just super solid on every level. Overuse the CGI a little bit, but those things don't really affect my enjoyment of the film. So yeah, I had to put it at number
Mhm.
8.
Yeah, my number 8, of course, is Wakanda Forever. This is because I just saw it recently, and it's kind of forefront on my mind right now. But it's really Shuri. Shuri is why. Shuri, Shuri,
Mm,
Shuri. She is a character I care about now more than maybe anyone else in the MCU currently.
mm,
She's become very quickly a favorite character
yeah,
because of this movie, because of her journey, her growth, her arc. Namor as the villain, I
mm,
think, is just so good, so,
right,
so strong.
right.
Um, the visuals are incredible. Again, it doesn't really feel like a big MCU blockbuster thing. It feels much more
Mhm,
intimate and personal,
right.
and it just benefits from all of those. It's just so good.
Yeah. All right. My number 7 is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. This is the Russo
Yikes!
brothers' first movie,
That's
which
amazing.
is crazy. Yeah, to think about that they took on this. I mean, they directed TV and other things, but yeah, taking
To
on
go from Arrested Development to Winter Soldier is a
right,
big leap.
right. Yeah, they did a Community episode, Arrested Development, then the biggest sequel of all time. It's like, it's pretty incredible. So, adapting the Winter Soldier comic, one of my favorite comics, the story they're telling here with Bucky and with Cap and with Black Widow, where they utilize her characters. It's her best performance in the
Mhm.
entire MCU. It's a conspiracy thriller in the same vein as, 3 Days of the Condor is kind of what it's inspired by. One of my favorites. Just a great plot, a really interesting plot, a plot that should have had more implications on the MCU than it did.
Big
Um,
Age of Ultron problem.
that's yeah, exactly. That's Age of Ultron's problem. That's not this movie's problem. This movie deals with it perfectly. Great character dynamics, introducing Falcon, introducing Alexander Pierce, Robert Redford of 3 Days of
Mhm.
the Condor coming
Mhm.
in. Great role for Nick Fury, his best role as well. He has an active part in this story that's really interesting. So, just great, well written, well acted, well directed. The action sequences are second to none, I think. I mean, it's right up there with the best of the MCU action wise.
I
Um,
think it's perfect.
yeah, it's pretty much a perfect movie. I mean, it really is really well done.
My number 7 is Eternals.
Eternals, great pick.
Eternals is another one that feels very un-MCU-ish
Right.
and the way that it's shot. Shia LaBeouf the field, excellent, like just wide shots of landscapes, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really unique, and the way that the story is told,
Mm-hmm.
almost non-linearly, where
Mm-hmm.
we go throughout all of history.
Right.
We see the Eternals and we kind of grow with them and we learn their relationships with one another. It's a totally new, large cast.
Yep.
It's a movie that totally stands alone.
Yep.
It has a good sense of humor and sense of urgency in terms of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everyone's characterized very well, very clearly,
Mm-hmm.
in a very concise period of time.
Yep.
I'm excited to see more from Eternals. Just the superhero action is the major takeaway from Eternals, is that they have mastered heat vision, flight, super speed, super strength,
Yeah.
what all of that should look like in a
Right.
superhero movie.
Yeah.
I really hope moving forward that these lessons are taken away from Eternals.
Yep. Definitely. My number 6 is Guardians of the Galaxy, the original James Gunn.
What does your top 5 even look like?
It's interesting. James Gunn, his first foray into the MCU, it's so different again. He just came out of nowhere with this. People were not expecting anything out of this, didn't know what this was. What
Mm-hmm.
are they doing with the MCU going into space with a raccoon and a talking tree? It
Yep.
was just a fool's errand, most people thought, to do this with this huge franchise. You're going to ruin the franchise if you do this. But it ended up being one of the best movies of the entire MCU.
Yep.
It's got such unique characters, such specific characters, well played, well cast. The cast is excellent in each of these roles. They so inhabit their roles.
Mm-hmm.
It's so well written. It's got so much heart. It's hilarious throughout. It's got a great soundtrack, awesome mix volume 1, great classic 70s pop songs. Great visuals as well, lots of color here. Really, really dynamic visuals. I remember when I bought this on Blu-ray. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
We bought it on Blu-ray, came home, put it in, watched it. That was great. And we turned to each other and we're like, let's watch it again. We turned it on, watched it a second time in a row. It's the first time we've ever done that. So pretty great film. If we did that, and it's one that we can continue to watch over and over again. So that's my 6.
My 6 is The Incredible Hulk.
My 5.
Okay, cool. So The Incredible Hulk is the black sheep of the MCU.
Totally.
The most underrated MCU movie ever.
By far.
Most people don't even know it's an MCU movie.
Right.
Hulk as a character, there are so many interesting
layers
to him. Layers to Bruce Banner.
Yep. Very psychological.
Very psychological character.
Could have been more psychological, but Feige wanted more action.
Maybe should have been more.
Probably should have.
And The Incredible Hulk, it balances all of that with fast-paced, violent action.
Intense action.
Very intense. And just a heartfelt character that we can really sympathize with.
Yeah, there's a lot of drama here. A lot of interesting...
It's not a superhero movie because he's not really a superhero.
I mean, at the end, he does save the day.
He fights the bad guy.
Right.
But it's another...
he's a very reluctant hero. He doesn't want to be the hero. He just wants to be a guy.
He actually wants to kill Hulk.
Right, exactly.
Bruce Banner's kind of the antagonist throughout most of the movie.
Right.
Because he wants to kill
from Hulk's perspective. Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. From his perspective, Hulk's the villain. So he wants, Hulk's
responsible
for hurting Betty, and he's responsible for, doing all these destructive things. So he wants to get rid of it. But yeah, it is about him learning to use this, what he looks at as a curse, as a gift. And it's really great. Edward Norton does a great job in this role. He's so into it. You can tell he had such a big part in developing the script and everything. And so, yeah, it's really well done. Leterrier does a great job directing, especially the action. It's just really, really cool. What he does with the action sequence is very unique. The way he uses Hulk's, all of his abilities. So that's great. Liv Tyler as Betty needs to come back to the MCU. She's great in that role. William Hurt as Ross, who did end up coming back, was great as well. So yeah, it's very underrated. It's very, it's a fugitive story. He's on the run, so you get all these different locations. Start in Brazil. You've got, just great, believable relationships there as well. You can tell the love between Bruce and Betty, the kind of longing, the desire that they have for one another. So it's just great all around. Very underrated.
It works as a movie.
It works as a standalone
most
film.
Important.
Right.
What's most important about it is that it works as a movie about a guy who can't get his heart rate above a certain level. Right. And he's also being hunted by the government. Yeah. And you don't find out what that actually means or what happens if it does until later in the movie.
Yeah. I love the slow reveal of Hulk. You don't really see him in that opening scene, and you kind of reveal him throughout it. So it's just really good. It's a movie that builds very well. It's my favorite Marvel comic. The Hulk is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. So they just nailed it here. I think this is the best version of Hulk we've ever had on screen. And so that's my number 5.
My number 5 is Captain America: The First Avenger.
Oh,
I like the First Avenger so much.
Great.
It's a 40s pulpy superhero action story that I just wish we had more of.
We got more in What If.
This sold me on Steve Rogers. I mean, Steve Rogers is one of the most compelling characters in the MCU.
Difficult character to pull off.
Very difficult. Many people didn't think Chris Evans could do it because he's Human Torch.
Right.
But he nailed it. I mean, he did it, and he brought so much life to this character. And he's such a good-hearted character.
Yeah.
Who he's the little guy. Literally, Skinny Steve is an incredible effect.
Yeah,
that still boggles my mind.
I know.
The special effects in this movie are just incredible.
Seamless.
They just hold up so well. And I don't know why the MCU has lost that sense of intimacy and small scale effects like that.
A lot of it was done practically.
Yeah.
Joe Johnston, he's got a background in visual effects.
I know.
He did it back in Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So he knows.
Right.
So he's a big part of why that movie is so great.
Phase 1, I think Phase 1's the best phase of the MCU because They're just good movies. And that's more important than
a good universe.
A good universe.
Right. My number 4 is Eternals. Eternals.
Why is Eternals not trash?
Eternals is not trash because it's beautiful in every way. It is, first of all, just visually the most stunning MCU movie by far. I watched this the other night. I got it on 4K. It looks amazing. The natural lighting, the the real locations they're shooting on, you can tell because the depth, everything about it is just so visceral and real and grounded and gritty. And it's also this super epic, crazy cosmic story about these totally new characters that I've never read an Eternals comic. I got a comic for my birthday. I finally started reading, but these are characters I didn't know anything about. And it's Jack Kirby's crazy creations, and it is just the most bonkers, weird thing.
Yeah, this is it's the next Guardians of the Galaxy risk of the MCU took.
It's a huge risk. It's a huge risk, and it was released at the worst time. During COVID, no one went and saw this, so it's unfortunate that not a lot of people have even seen it yet. But it is a must-see film. It is
another one that I think not everybody realizes is an MCU movie.
Right, because it is so set apart.
Yeah.
There's no real, there's, I think, one mention of Iron Man and Cap, and that's really it.
Probably.
Yeah. And so it definitely stands on its own. These 10 characters are so compelling. They're so well characterized. The cast is great. The cast is diverse. The cast is just so interesting to watch on screen. Chloe Zhao did a great job directing. It's very well written. A lot of great, deep themes, deep philosophical ideas they're dealing with here. About
kind of a living android story.
Yeah,
that's
very, very interesting. So, just beautiful, meaningful, great effects. You mentioned the action sequences; they're spectacular. It's just really, really well done. This is a movie that I could think about for days on end after I watch it, and got the T-shirt because I wanted to represent.
Definitely. So, my number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Oh yeah, okay.
He may be your father, but he ain't your daddy.
Oh man,
I'll tell you, man.
Great.
James Gunn gets how to make a movie like this so well.
Yep.
He just understands
the misfits,
a team of weirdos who all have problems, and the glaring issues with these characters are what make them relatable and likable and give them strong arcs.
Yep.
And every one of the characters in both volumes have that.
Yep.
Volume 2, I think, has incredible visuals, super colorful, super fun, super vibrant energy throughout the whole movie. It's obviously hilarious. It's kind of poking fun at the rest of the MCU toward the end with its 9 post-credit scenes or whatever.
Yes.
But at its heart, it's an emotional, important story.
Yep.
And the fact that this movie is so good, it can get us to fully buy into all of the silly dialogue, funny characters,
Mary Poppins, y'all,
and goofy just stuff that happens.
Right.
And buy into it emotionally.
Yeah,
has so much weight.
Yeah, it's great.
Definitely my number 4.
Great pick. Into our top 3. My number 3 is Avengers Endgame. This is the culmination of the first 3 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they knocked it out of the park. I think every
Hulk out,
every aspect of this movie works for me. Everything about it,
Hulk out,
including Hulk out, works for me because they've taken these characters on journeys. They've brought it to a resolution that makes sense to me and works. And so, it's kind of just this perfect ending, specifically to Iron Man and Captain America. These 2 characters are characters we went on journeys with for 11 years of storytelling. And those of us who read the comics even longer than that. So these are characters we're very deeply connected to, and they do a great job of, again, bringing them to a resolution that is satisfying, which I think is very difficult.
Endings are hard.
Endings are very hard, and they really nail it here. The time travel elements, I think, work really well because we get to go back and revisit other moments of the MCU that are important and see them from new context. This makes Thor: The Dark World 10 times better. This is probably why it wasn't at the very bottom of my list, because it does help make it better, and it's balancing.
Even though it makes fun of it.
It does.
It shouldn't, because it's great.
Right. But it's fun, and the writers wrote that movie, so they're making fun of themselves, which is great.
I get it. It's fine.
But what they do with all the characters is so great. It's ending things, it's setting up new beginnings as well. It's just got epic moments of action. But it's really not a ton of action in this movie. It is a lot of character stuff. There's a lot of, there's time travel stuff, there's cool visual stuff going on, but it's not a lot of, combat, like, battles that we're used to seeing. There's, of course, the huge battle at the end, which is great. But yeah, it's just one of those movies that I think when you think about how difficult it was to pull off and the fact that they did was what makes it great. I mentioned Cap and Iron Man. They're the linchpin of it. They're what makes it work. They're the emotional moments. But Hawkeye is my favorite Avenger, and he gets a lot of time to shine here. He was not in Infinity War at all. The movie starts with him and his family, and it kind of takes us through the whole way.
Yeah.
His arc becoming Ronin and everything, and how that works out is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the final moments with Tony and Steve are the moments that are just these emotional moments that made me cry even in the theater.
Great.
So
very strong.
great one. That's my number 3.
My number 3 is Iron Man, the first Iron Man.
It's my number 2.
Oh, cool. Behind the scenes, what an underdog story of this B-list hero that we're gonna make a movie about, and Feige's been wanting to build this universe,
right? With an actor that's been out of the game for years.
Yeah.
His comeback. I mean, it's just such an underdog story.
Right. This movie is just excellent.
It's perfection.
It's just excellent.
Everything about it. The themes, the story,
his arc,
the characters. I mean, most of it was improv because they didn't have a complete script. I mean, Jon Favreau, what he's doing on set is just...
It's visual. Everything serves the story and serves the character. The effects are fantastic. I fully believe he's wearing a real Iron Man suit the whole movie, because half the time he is.
Right.
It's just splendid.
Yeah. Even the villain is great. The villain gets criticized. I think Obadiah Stane is a perfect villain for Iron Man.
For this story, it's important that because Tony's real antagonist is himself.
Right.
And Obadiah represents his past self. And
when in Iron Man 2 we learn more about his dad, I mean, this is his surrogate father.
Sure.
And so he is dealing with this surrogate father figure in his life.
Right.
And it's complex because of the relationship he had with his real dad. And so all this stuff plays into it. His relationship with Pepper, how that develops is great. Just super cool movie.
I just really wish we'd go back to this. Yeah. We'd go back to these roots.
Back to basics.
Of making a great movie on a lower budget, about a real person, about some kind of actual emotional core.
Get creative, and it's got so much humor but so much heart. It's that perfect balance that all these movies I feel like are chasing. This is what kicked it all off. This is the origin of the MCU. So
absolutely,
it's a great one of the best superhero origin movies ever.
It's amazing that the first one is still one of the best.
I know, it really is.
It's impressive.
It is.
My number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. This proves, just like how Pixar proves, that it doesn't matter what your character looks like or where they come from or what they're made of. What matters is what they do and who they are. And this is a group of misfit weirdos, a talking tree, a raccoon, a green lady from Star Trek, literally, and the fat guy from Parks and Rec all get together and become a group of awesome characters who all learn and grow from each other. Also, Drax is there. Sorry, Drax. I forgot Drax. Former wrestler with a bunch of tattoos. And it's hilarious and it's so much fun, but it has a really strong emotional heart. The villain is perfectly generic. Exactly what this movie needed was a villain like Ronin, who is this speech-giving, black robe wearing tyrant,
cult leader.
That's exactly
who has
no family,
right?
Who's exactly the kind of guy we can punch and beat up.
The kind of villain you love to hate.
So many wonderful side characters in this movie.
The collector in there,
the Nova Corps guy.
Oh, sure.
Many just other little even I guess Yondu would be a side character in this movie.
Yeah.
Little moments with all these little people
Mm-hmm.
that have big emotional resonance, like the opening scene with his mom. And again, Yondu will come back and be someone more important later, but
right. That opening scene really sets a tone.
it
That's
does.
interesting.
And the music, and like you were saying earlier, with the music telling a story,
right.
This track that he has that he's listening to the whole time, this mixtape. It's emotional. It's important, and it really services that story very, very well.
On to my number one, Captain America, the First Avenger. This is my all-time favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. It's another perfect origin story. It is World War II, like you were talking about, that style, that pulpy adventure, Indiana Jones-esque kind of feel to it, which Joe Johnston just nails. I mean, he knocks it out of the park here. Steve, such a hard role to play. Chris Evans nails it. The uniform is so cool. The shield, the origins of all these things, you know, the montage of him at the USO tour and the Howling Commandos. You know, the world is fleshed out so well. The villain Red Skull, one of my all-time favorite MCU villains. Absolutely. Hugo Weaving just annihilates this part. I mean, he's playing this so over the top, so theatrical. It's great. And Zola and all these other characters that are great. Peggy,
of course, Peggy
being the most important, because Steve and Peggy, that's the whole thing. I mean,
they're the relationship of the MCU, even more than Tony and Pepper.
Right, I agree, because it's you know, them, the way they meet, the way their relationship develops, the way, you know, in Endgame we come full circle with, you know, the dance that they never got to have. I mean, it's just, it's all set up here. It's all perfect. The action sequences are very exciting and really fun to watch. It's got good moments of humor, and it's got emotional weight and stakes.
We lose Bucky.
We lose Bucky. I mean, there's real stakes here. So, I mean, we lose our hero. I mean, our hero makes the ultimate sacrifice at the end of this film, and it's only because he's a super soldier that he gets to come back. But just this movie on its own, I can watch anytime, and it's just so much fun, so meaningful.
Great.
It's just a great superhero movie. One of my favorite superhero movies ever made. And so yeah, that had to be my number one.
I agree. And my number one is Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Yes.
So me personally, I love this film.
Yeah, it's great.
I saw this before I saw Dark Knight. So this was my introduction to a
gritty, grounded,
realistic superhero movie.
Right.
They nailed superpowers for Captain America in a way that he's just a person, but it's enhanced. More powerful.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more.
Right.
He does things you can't quite do.
Right.
And the characters are so incredible, and it's just, this movie, it's just perfect to me in every way. It personifies what the MCU does best. It really, I think visually, it matches the tone of the movie.
Right.
And that's why
style.
Yeah, that's why the concrete works.
A lot of handheld.
Yeah. To me, there are two interesting stories you can tell with Captain America. There's First Avenger, which is like his origin and him being a pulpy hero. And then there's the story of Winter Soldier, which is a story about a guy who his whole identity is based on his loyalty to his country and what his country represents, and then being in a world where that ideal no longer stands, where now he has to fight against his country by upholding what his country stands for. So it's like this patriot fighting against his own country. Is this really interesting dynamic, and him staying true to his ideals and not being a slave to this country that's changed. Right. So yeah, just incredible story, very well told, brilliant. And that's my number one MCU pick.
Great pick. All right, so that is our ranking of the entire MCU, every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, ranked from number 30 to number 1. Let us know what your list is in the comments below. Be sure to give us a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notifications of all our videos, and we'll see you next time.